Hello, dear Outside the Box conference participants. We have a new day and a new portion of knowledge and insights from our fabulous speakers. And this day, we will start with a topic called Influencing Change Through Business Architecture. All of us already accustomed to the statement that a good business analyst has strong hands-on experience within a software development project or a discovery of a newly signed initiative. But have you ever asked yourself where these initiatives came from? How does your customer know that they need to develop in-house CRM, renovate customer portal, or rewrite existing billing solution? Let's try to find this hidden path from strategy to execution. I'm especially pleased to introduce our next speaker, a lead business analyst with 10 plus years experience, including 6 plus years in healthcare domain. She possesses strong hands-on experience with enterprise level projects and enterprise transformation initiative. She has been honored with the SoftServe Business Analyst Top Performer title in 2018. Please welcome Elena Sheludko.
Thank you very much for presentation. Hi, everyone. Let me start our talk. So, Mariana already told who I am, but again, a few words. I'm working for SoftServe for about, I don't know, six or 7 years. Overall, I have 10 years experience of solely enterprise focus projects. I have few certifications, including CBAP, and I'm really happy to have a master in cybernetics. It really helps me in my day-to-day life in business analysis. And I really like to say that I'm customer hero before it became a mainstream, because I was in the list of first 3 people who get this title. And I remember the day when it happened. I had a lot of meetings and guys in my room were celebrating something, and I was not able even to understand what. In a few hours, they explained me that somewhere in the workplace, there was a new video and new thing, a customer hero. It was really a fun pleasure. Right now, I'm acting as an agile transformational consultant and operational efficiency and renovation leader and advisor for our customer. With e-government, mainly Ukrainian e-government, with departments of healthcare, defense, and education. But right now, for almost 7 years, I'm concentrated in healthcare, in payers, providers, pharmacy, and clinical processes. So I really want to share with you my experience, and I want to start with a question, with an open one. This is a question really general. I want to use word scope because that's a broad term, and sometimes that's a holy war between BA, PM, developers, architects, and other roles. What actually scope is? It's a general something we're dealing with in our professional life, no matter what. It's application layer rewrite, it's MVP of new product, it's integration through FHIR protocol or process optimization. All of that is a scope of initiative. So where it comes from? I really want to hear your thoughts during the whole session. What are you thinking? I really hope to use some bright ideas later and just to hear what you're thinking. While you're giving this input, by the way, you can use the QR code, which will lead you to the link and the place where you can put your thoughts. Try to be like few words, short. And at the end, if we'll have free time, we'll go through and see what are bright ideas here. While you're doing that, I will try to share my story of searching the answer on this question. From the really beginning of my career, I was always questioning, how do we know that the things we're doing are actually correct? Not the solutions we're building, but even the requirements we're eliciting. Sorry. Even requirements we're eliciting, but how we know they are valid, how we know that it is even right to ask those stakeholders we're working with. It's like a subjective thinking. Are they aligned with the rest of the company, with a broad vision? What means all that holistic view everyone talks about? What's like, how I can be sure that requirements will truly derive from each other, that I'm not trying to build a traceability just to build traceability. Where are like all these requests for new initiatives, RFPs I'm working on during the pre-sales? Where are they coming from? It really was a surprise for me. Many of you may say like it's generally common answer to that question. We define a need, we design a solution which covers the need, and we bring the value. This is all covered in BA core model. And like you pass the CBAP, how like you don't even know that. But my question is more how we make this like actionable, how we bring this to life, how we ensure that all those items, they are in harmony with each other and they are not impacted by subjective thinking, poorly informed decisions, or simple miscommunication. And running a little bit ahead, I'm still searching the perfect formula, but I think I found some kind of core or cornerstone for myself. A little bit for history of that. During almost all the trainings and sessions I was visiting, I was sketching myself on something like how you start with the backlog. Like backlog does not appear from like nowhere. It comes from somewhere. Or product cannot just exist. It comes from particular strategy or goal or something. How we can start with that? Why we cannot just create a product. It's the whole infrastructure of people, resources to support it. There are processes behind it. Those are ways of receiving revenue and everything. All that also form the product. It's not just a set of tasks to work on. And when I was getting my SAFE certification, I had exactly the same moment of the questioning. But when I saw this perfect big schema, I thought, finally, this is the source when I can get my answers, because all the things we are working on, they are split somewhere there. They are perfectly harmonized. Teams are working together. People are collaborating. And when you're going through this path, you're getting to the top. And like to previous experience, I noticed that all this huge flow, with its procedures, policies, everything, and actually start with a tiny thing on the top, named enterprise. This is like a starting point for many really big, crucial workflows of how to organize enterprise work. Before we'll go deeper on what's underneath of that item and how actually those requirements transform into what we're doing right now, let me start like as an analyst from the glossary. When I see the term, I'm trying to define the term and a little bit of domain knowledge of what's happening. So term enterprise. And a question here would be to you, what is an enterprise? Right now, we should have a poll. Try to pick what better fits to your understanding what's an enterprise. Yeah, as I was thinking, which answer will win? So, and the poll, and share results. So as you may see, most people, like 75%, picked the third one, and I know why, because it's written in Babel. But the cool thing here, there is all four answers actually correct. They're taken just from different areas. It's the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it is Cambridge or Collins dictionary. Like all of them are correct depending who we're talking with. So that's another trick of having in which context you're operating. But for us, yeah, the third one was the most correct one. So next thing, what in your opinion is the most important word in this definition? You can, I don't know, use the chat and just tell me what you think. You can pick few words. Okay, anyone else? Okay, for me, this word is actually system. Why it is system? Because if you remove word system from this definition, it just doesn't make sense. But if you remove everything else from this definition, and just leave enterprise is a system, it will still have sense. And let's talk about like why. Next question, we'll drill down into the glossary. What is a system? I will show you 3 pictures and will ask you to vote what you think about those pictures. Is it the system showed on the picture or not? Just use plus and minus, and girls will help me to make the line between those answers. And let's take it with the first one. Here I actually mean the person's body. For no reasons, I cannot put the real photo of the real body. So try to think as abstract. Awesome. Everyone thinks that the system. Okay, let's go to the next one. Will you make the line? Awesome. Let's go to the next one. What about this? Okay, cool. And let's go to the final one. Here also, same thing, I mean brain. Awesome. And here, by the way, we have pluses and minuses. That was what I was expecting. Okay, let's go to actually definition of the system and discussing all those 3 examples. So a system is a group of interacting or interrelated elements that act according to a set of rules to form a unified whole. This is the core thing. Why? And by the way, this is definition from just a book of about system theory. That's the central definition of this subject. This is why I think if we remove from definition of the enterprise everything else except the system, it will still make sense, because we have interacting and interrelated elements. Those could be other organizations, whatever, and they act according to the set of rules, so trying to get this to the same goal, receive revenue or whatever, and they form something unified. If we talk about previous examples, when talking about the body, that's perfectly, everyone said it's the system. About the backpack, almost everyone said it's not a system. And it's not, because that's just a collection. If you just collect a set of items which do not interact with each other, which do not bring some kind of result together, that's not a system. That's just a collection. The main thing is interacting and interrelated. If we talk about the brain, here is a tricky thing. Brain is a system, but you cannot isolate this system. And here I want to tell you a little bit about the emergence. When all elements operate together, we get an emergence. That's a new level of organization. If all parts of our car are arranged in a specific way, then we will get a global functionality of transportation. But you will not get that from just some kind of sole part of the car, or if they are arranged in the wrong way. And emergent systems start to interact with other systems. A result being that's the new pattern of organization, and we get an emergence of another level, and so on. So elements are nested inside of subsystems, which form a larger system, and so on. So brain is like a subsystem, but it has no value if it's not connected to a body. It's just something. There is a rich classification of the systems, and the most popular is the complex dynamic systems. Everything runs in system theory around this. An organization actually is, an enterprise and organization is a complex dynamic system. Actually, definition of this is that complex dynamic systems are those which change its state, trying to find a balance, and has two main subsystems, controlling and operational one. The main aim of the system is to produce an output, which is useful to someone who is using that, any kind of the user. Inputs are the information that enters to the system for processing, could be anything, resources, just data, whatever. The processor is an element of the system that involves the actual transformation of the input, and the controlling element is a decision-making system that controls the pattern of activities governing inputs, processing, and outputs. That's a general set of the system theory, which you're studying in university in cybernetics. And another extra item here is a feedback. It provides control in a dynamic system. Positive feedback is a routine in nature that encourages the performance of the system, while negative is informational in nature, and that provides the control over information for action. Environment, that's the super system, like I was talking about that before, emergence. Systems are parts or larger systems, and so on and so forth till the end of the world. Also, systems should be defined by the boundaries. So its limits to identified components, processes, and relations. It easily could be mapped to the enterprise. You have the controlling management part of the organization. You have processor, actually the operational value stream. You have inputs to the system, you have outputs, and you have continuous feedback, either from end customers or from users or from inside or from the market. Perfectly maps there. That's the part about the complex. Next part about being dynamic. Elements interdependence in the system, it creates its non-linearity. It derives from the fact that when you're putting two items together, you can get something extra benefit more than you will get from one item. And based on the feedback loops, what we were talking previously, system can grow or decay in those exponential loops. These changes are named phase transitions, or if I will translate it in our language, it is transition from as is into to be state. Each of those states is like a roadmap or trajectory of the system or the enterprise. It's from its beginning, it moved through different stages of the balance of its operation. We're starting from some kind of as is, we're getting somewhere into to be through the change strategy, and at next second, this to be state, as soon as we reach it, becomes our as is. And it goes in the loops till the end of life of the system, till enterprise is closed, till the bankruptcy or death of the system. Each state of the change, it's actually impacted by something. Each change happens because of some changes in the input or in the feedback loop. So we're getting some kind of information which makes us make a decision where the system, like us as a controlling element, where this system will go next. Through a period of time, some small changes to the input, they can trigger a really large systematic effect. This is the central idea of the house theory. Example of this butterfly effect you may see in financial crisis we were experiencing, or I'm sure we'll see after a few years after COVID. It will be a huge butterfly effect. What's important to know here, and what is another basis of the system theory, that the complex system that works has evolved from simpler system that worked. Complex system designed from scratch, it never works. As a consequence, all complex adaptive systems are shaped by their evolution and their product of it. So you need to study the history of how system got here, what is the structure of the system within, and where it can go. Each next stage, each next to be state actually is defined by previous states and by the elements of the system. What are their structure right now? And at each point of this influence to input or to feedback, we have a point of making a decision where we go next. Each point we have multiple potential ways where we can go. In system theory, they are named attractors. To us, it's for business analysts, we can name this at each potential to be where we can end up. And our goal as an analyst, as an advisor, to help the system, to help its controlling engine to understand how to get to the best option possible, or explain that the option they want to get to, some kind of to-be state, just does not exist because we cannot get there with the current state of elements. We need to change something. We need to get through few transitions until we actually can pursue the goal you want to have. And I believe our mission is navigating, advising, and recommending which path to choose in order to get to the place actually the system wants to get. We're also acting as some kind of disruptions and changes to the feedback loop or to the input to help the controlling element to make a decision about the system. That's the really boring theory, but it perfectly fits to how organization could be described as a system. And if you're interested in system theory, you can find plenty of books and you can see how that could be used in your day-to-day life. I highly recommend that. Before we'll go to something more practical, I want to share with you a really interesting story which perfectly describes why system thinking and system theory is highly important. I think a lot of people know this story, and we'll start with a fun cat on the screen. This is a story about cats of Borneo. In 1950s, the young people from Borneo, an island in South Asia, they were suffering from outbreak of malaria. And so they called the World Health Organization for the help, and they had a ready-made solution, which was to spray copious amount of DDT around the island. So actually what happened if we'll translate into our language? As is, we have a malaria outbreak. Our expected state to be is our island without malaria. Gap analysis gave us information. The reason are in mosquitoes. So our solution is to kill mosquitoes, change strategy to spray the area with DDT, and come on, what risk we can have, only benefits. But what happened after that, it's pretty interesting. With application of DDT, mosquitoes carried the malaria, were no down, so was the malaria. But first, what happened, the roofs of people's houses began to collapse on their heads. It turned out the DDT not only killed the malaria-carrying mosquitoes, but it also killed a species of parasitic wasps that were controlling a population of thatch-eating caterpillars. And that actually being the material which people of Borneo were using to make their roofs. So it began, a lot of caterpillars multiplied, flourished the island, and began actually eating villagers' roofs. That was just the beginning, because also DDT affected a lot of the island other insects. Those insects were eaten by a resident population of small lizards called geckos. The biological half-life of DDT is around 8 years. So animals like geckos do not metabolize it really fast, but they were through the time absorbing really high levels of DDT. And why they tolerated DDT fairly well, island resident cats, which dined on geckos, actually did not. And the cat which ate geckos and DDT contained within them were killed by the DDT. With the cats gone, the island population of rats came into play. And we all know what happens when rats multiply and flourish. So pretty soon, the egg people were back on the phone to the World Health Organization, but this time, problem was bigger. It was the plague outbreak, the destruction of the grain stores, both which were caused by overpopulation of rats. And this time, it was the World Health Organization didn't have a ready-made solution. They were inventing one, and what they did, they decided to parachute live cats on the island. And by the way, this operation is named Cat Drop. You can Google that, a lot of stories about this. And it was done by Royal Air Force, and actually, eventually it stabilized the situation. But for us, what happened? They made an analysis, but they missed one tiny thing. They missed the context of the entire Borneo ecosystem. We haven't analyzed the current state of entire system, what's happening, what's impacting what, and what was the result. solving one problem created a lot of other problems. So it's really important to know what system we're trying to change and why we're trying to change the system. We need to understand the view, the structure, and the relationship of elements in that system. How to do that? If we are naming requirement as the usable representation of the need, I like to think that architecture is the usable representation of the system. So we need to go deeply in architecture of the enterprise. And now we get into some practical items. There are a lot of different definitions of enterprise architecture. I like this one from Gartner. This is a discipline, not just some kind of artifact. This discipline for proactively and holistically leading enterprise responses to disruptive forces by identifying, analyzing the execution of change towards desired business vision and outcomes. I hope you see the correlation with the stuff we were talking before. Trying to analyze the structure, proactively lead the response to some forces from the environment, either from the feedback or input. Enterprise architecture by itself, it's not like two-dimensional thing. It's multi-layer entity thing about the enterprise, which describes different levels of enterprise structure. Like if we'll think about the person's body, you have nerve system, you have blood system, you have digestive system. All those are different systems which work together, but you can separate them as separate self-containing elements. And here in enterprise architecture, we have at least 4 layers. We can make it bigger, but 4 core layers. This is a business architecture, data application, and infrastructure architecture. Business architecture sits on the top because it actually drives everything and what would be happening in data application infrastructure. Really often with a lot of our projects, we're starting somewhere in the middle with application or data, sometimes even infrastructure, assuming that business architecture is done somewhere by someone, and we're assuming that we're just receiving the responses. But it's not always like that. Business architecture, it includes strategic business goals and what actually guides the effort. Data architecture helps organization understand what information each business function needs. Application one determines how to create and connect and provide data to those functions. And infrastructure one encompasses all the services, securities, and other tools. I really want to mention that having a clear enterprise architecture does not magically solve any business operational issues or does not enable company to generate insights with a single tool. It is just additional item for us while we're doing as is to be definition while we're designing the solution, to be sure we know where we are and we know what we are trying to change, and not to end up like in the story of the cats Borneo. So we're solving one problem will not generate a tons of others. Let's go deeply a little bit to the top layer, which actually defines that. There is an organization named a Business Architecture Guild. They have their own body of knowledge, business architecture body of knowledge named BizBook. That's one of the biggest, I guess, books about the business architecture. It contains the processes, tools, which are recommended to practicing business architects to use during your work. Also, they have a lot of working groups which help you to get on board with this activity. This is a holistic, multidimensional view of capabilities, value delivery, information, organizational structure, and all other items of the organization, which is actually on the top of everything else. We have multiple aspects of business architecture. There are 4 core, which are required by everyone, by any practice organization, and a bunch of less prioritized, but still important depending on what you're working with. So the core ones, organization, information, value stream, and capabilities. Those 4 is good enough to define this and to describe what this enterprise is actually doing and where it is right now, the current state of it. For example, if we are working and talking about some kind of ISV product client, we are really often working here at Outsource. For us, it's really important to understand products and services and how they fit into value streams, into information capability in an organization. This is something what was always the question for me, like we're talking about the product, but this product is just one aspect. What about everything else? This is all part of interaction with the product. It's impacted the products and services. It is impacted by products and services. So here I found the answer on my first question. Where is everything else? We're not starting with a product. All those aspects should be represented by multidimensional views. There are a lot of them. This is just an example from this book, what you can use. There are tons of different maps, and this book recommends you what to use. And the main idea here to make them interconnected. You always need to know which value streams are organized and impacted by which departments, which stakeholders work within which departments and impacting capabilities and value streams. So building connection of everything to everything will give you the blueprint of the organizational current state. And making this snapshot live and going through that each iterative change will actually help you to build this trajectory of the system. Each to-be state should be represented and reflected in the business architecture. It's not like a stable set of artifacts. This is a living thing. Now you may think about, okay, new discipline, how it all fits with all we already know it. Pragmatic marketing, with user experience, with business analysis, all types of management and change management. I was trying to build the stages and where each disciplines actually act. Doesn't mean that like innovation or strategy does not act somewhere in the designing or implementing the solution. It's all over all 5 stages of strategy to execution workflow, but the most actively it works at the beginning. So we're starting with the business strategy and innovation, business strategy modeling as an entire separate discipline that gives us an input to how and where to architect the changes inside of the business architecture we defined. Customer experience always goes together with business architecture. You cannot architect your enterprise if you do not know how you will build the experience for your customers. It's not the like user experience or something, it's the entire big discipline of designing experience for our customer. Sometimes customer experience impacts the definition of goals and business strategy. Somewhere in the middle, where we already understand which parts of business architecture will be impacting, but what we want to do by our strategy. We're turning on the business analysis from the beginning to the end, to the operational impact. Here, where our knowledge and tools we're using will perfectly help to create the business architecture, to redesign it, to elicit, to validate and verify. And after that, we are going through IT architecture and actually implementation through portfolio, program, and project management. Change management also takes place here. We cannot implement the strategic big changes without managing this change because too much things are impacted. So you may remember we were discussing during the system structure. If you're making any change to input or the feedback, the result could be unexpectedly tremendous. We want to avoid any kind of unnecessary butterfly effect, and this is where we need the change management. This is how those things are aligned. They are not against each other, they are working together. And I really briefly want to go through the NDA case. I cannot tell the name of the customer, but the thing was that initial request was to renovate existing claims processing system, improve the stability, maintainability, and other utilities. Pretty simple, as you may think. They started with the application architecture, if we'll think about the enterprise architecture structure. Starting from there, but I was trying to do system analysis there. So follow, in few words, follow the rabbit hole and figure out where it came from. What we did there, we started with a questioning, okay, why you want to do this change? What you want to see there? And we designed the main customer value stream and started to talk with each department which actually is involved in that customer value stream. And the true problem statement appeared. The true problem statement was really huge because problem was not in the testability or something. People were so used to not talking about their problems and not giving that feedback loop, or ignoring the feedback loop from their outside customers, that they totally ignored for years their real problems, and they were not providing the correct response from the controlling system to actual operational one. We created a true problem statement, and we realized that a lot of issues are actually an operational one, in processing subsystem. The bottlenecks, the waste of time, not being able to create expected capabilities because current state of things potentially blocks us. And the value stream was not covered by Kylan solution at all. So just rewriting something and with improving testability will not solve the problem. We'll end up with the same issues in 5 years, for example. But this big change was something problematic. So what we proposed renovation, not entirely right. We proposed renovation, but with a business in mind. We proposed to start with understanding how things should be done right, based on subject matter expertise and knowledge on the market, and step by step leading to their desire to be state. And their desire to be state was to penetrate few new markets, to actually decrease the cost of their products, a lot of different items. And what helped us there, that just in the middle of this, let's say, discovery, they realized how much operational cost they need to save. So it was a plus point to our vision. We were trying to design them and show this bright future with the to be state where we can actually bring them with a few steps. And next question was how we'll get there. And the thing is, we need to think about each proposition of the change we're trying to do as the impact on the system. I like to think about each significant big change to enterprise through the 8-step change model. Actually, I did the 0 step where it's not in the model, but for me, it's crucial to understand the needs, not wants, because sometimes people think they need this, but the reality is they just want it. The crucial thing here was to form the powerful coalition and explain people how we'll get to that perfect future state they really want to have, but they were thinking they cannot get there. That we'll need to do that together. It's really important to work with people, because people is the crucial part of the element. They can help you to build perfectly everything, or they can just ruin even the perfect project, just because they're stubborn, because they have a pushbacks and that kind of story. So urgency was created by the way of saving operational costs and understanding that they are losing markets. Forming powerful coalition that was the work with the main stakeholders. I think here was to give them the vision of this change, the understanding that we know how we'll get there. We're communicating this vision. We were making all this shareable. So each element of the system was informed about planned changes. All people know how they can contribute. They know what they can do. And the most interesting and important, they know what's the value within it. Nothing was hidden. Right now, I would say that we are somewhere in the middle of removing obstacles and creating short-term wins, because this project is still in process. So we started with a lot of analysis. I'm just showing few artifacts we're working with. We trying to analyze the processes, departments, people, missing capabilities, identify the bottlenecks or waste of time. And after realizing how deep the problem is, how deep is the issues with the elements of this business architecture, we start to actually architect the change, because we know the vision. We know where they want to go and why they want to go that. We did a cultural assessment. That's really important because a lot of things could not be changed just because of the culture of the company or culture of customers. This is their like selling and winning point. We went through building of their models, service model, capability model. We after that build firstly the people structures and how this organization will work. After that, together with those people, we built processes, information, and technology and created that into the roadmap. And this roadmap went into implementation. It's important to say here that solution and the roadmap is not just a system. Those are a lot of different artifacts and lists, like list of organizational standards changing. Changes in the business process and governance, suggestions on changes in business units, in governance, in third parties, and most important, the risk management plan. So we're not just working with the platform, we're working with the complex reorganization of the enterprise, helping them as a system to get to their expected to be. People approach, I think, here is the most important because the crucial thing is to give all the people in the organization understanding of the value, what they will get there, and introduce the same language. As soon as you have this, the system starts to operate and push those changes. We started this initiative like 3 or 4 people from software side and 1 or 2 champions from the customer side. In a year and a half or like 2 years, we have already like multiple groups and not in different departments of people who understand how this change will be happening. They're pushing this change. They're excited about that. So everything right now works as an organism. So they're trying to get there. Together with people, we did tremendous work with the processes and the value streams. That's the iterative loop we're going through each day. Researching, mapping of the processes, identifying their pain points, identifying improvement opportunities, quantifying and prioritizing those opportunities. I was the lucky one because departments in the company I was working with, they're tracking the time. So quantifying, prioritizing was an easy deal. If you do not have this, Six Sigma is your best friend, I think, here, because you need to quantify this. You cannot just suggest a solution. After that, actual designing and over again. And the informational one. Building glossary is not enough, and you need to build data to get information and to create knowledge. Knowledge really often in the brains of people. You need to put it in some kind of model on paper. So everyone can have the same understanding and make sure that everyone uses this model as one of the tools to drive this change. It's important to start with entities, their relationship, states, usage, and create the model of domain. Actually, creation of the model domain, that's 90% of the time the main point I'm doing at each discovery at the beginning. So those are core items. Also, we're working on the products, services, procedures for different departments, and all those aspects of business architecture I was showing before, but talking about each one will take an additional hour, I guess. Right now, we're in the middle of creation of the to-be state, like transitional to-be states. We created the interdependencies between capabilities, so we know where to start. We created interdependencies between value streams and information. So we know which items we need to tackle first. We figure out how we'll change the processes and how they will be improved. And we built a really huge domain model. So each of those small boxes is actually the entire entity with its own information. This is, by the way, that's one of the central artifacts which is used by all the developers on the client side. They're really excited about having this. Based on all of that, we created the strategy of our change. You won't be able to read that, but in few words, that's actually the sets of items we'll be developing or introducing. So it's not just a platform or the system. It's also the changes into different operational units. It's not linear because My personal belief, you cannot create interdependent items in the enterprise. They're all connected with each other. You always need to know what goes first, what goes next. You cannot separate them. This only happens in the really theoretical books, or in reality, it never like that. Right now, we're somewhere here in the middle. So we're ready for first break of first milestone to understand if that actually works and get the feedback and go to next iterative loop. We're not on the production yet with like the full stuff we are working on, but we already were able to make an evaluation with the usability testing, with the feedbacks and working with the stakeholders. We realized that even with the small work done, we're already potentially saving from 20 to up to 50% of the cycle time on different areas of operational value stream, main operational value stream. That's a lot. We haven't yet got to improvements of few other departments. Only one is under development, let's say right now, and we already know what would be the potential savings. And the potential savings to their entire general claims processing flow. So you may guess that's the insurance company. We are fixing a lot of their problems, so they were thinking will never be fixed. So I'm really happy that we are trying to bring them to that to-be state they were never thinking, just through this systematic approach to understanding of this customer. And the final thing I want to tell, those are my personal lessons learned from few initiatives I was working on with this approach. Domain knowledge is extremely important. Sometimes it could be vital. Why? Because it can save your time and can bring the trust, understanding of like what people are actually talking about. And people are key to everything. Everything what you do, you need to do with the people in mind, with understanding of their hidden agendas, with their motivations, with their fears. If you understand that and work with it correctly, that's the perfect flow. So strategy, stakeholder analysis is your best friend here. Always separate wants from needs, because people can really miss that. Next one is one of the statements I really use in my personal life. It was told me by my first mentor, Mikhail Kramarenko. Someone from Lviv can know him, as Dada Misha. It's known personally. He always was telling us, do not live in the world of untold assumptions. You may think you know something. Talk this through. Never leave something unresolved or unanswered or assumed. It can bring you a lot of problems. Try to be an advisor, but recommend action. Do not push this. And when you recommend, always prove and raise risks. This workflow can help you to gain trust. Few times when people even will not believe you, but risk will come and issues. After that, they will become more interested in what you're talking and recommending to them. Practice what you preach, and remember, everybody lies. So you need to check everything what people tell you. Even they are subject matter experts, they're also people. And the final one, please do not overcomplicate. Our notations, they are great sometimes for certifications. A lot of people from operational departments, they simply do not understand. Few boxes and lines would be perfectly enough for them to start the conversation. Just when you're getting there, forget about the perfect notations. Just talk. Yeah, I was talking a little bit more than I was planning, and I wanted to end my presentation with the same question and ask you if you changed your mind after that. But I don't think we have enough time to go through that, right, girls?
No, actually we haven't. We can check the answers from the Mentimeter that we shared at the beginning. And then we have a few questions, so
sure,
we will cover them after that.
Okay, let me find this link. And it is loading. Maybe a lot of answers there. Oh, okay, let's go through them. I show. Do you see them?
Yes.
Business goals, needs. By division. Anywhere. I like this one. Technical design depth. Business strategy. I would agree mostly like with this one because it's the most detailed. Competitive features, they are impacting business strategy. As this analysis, you're just understanding where you are, but you're not going you don't know how to prioritize all those findings. You need to put them through the prism of business strategy and vision. All those needs, business goals needs, yep, but they are part of business strategy. Client problems together. I think it's the business strategy is must right one here, but even the business strategy, my personal belief, should be put through the workflow of architecting the change and architecting the business.
Okay, great comments. Elena, I want first of all to thank you for such a combination of theoretical and practical parts of your speech. Yeah, I'm more than sure that participants learned a lot from it, and I think they was inspired to get more knowledge on this topic. And we have actually a few questions that I'd like to ask you to answer. Sure. So the first philosophical question from Denise, should we treat our universe as a system, taking into account the fact that universe's entropy is increasing constantly?
Getting back to definition, what is the system? Group of interrelated and interconnected items which form the whole, right? So yeah, universe is a system, and during the previous year, you saw a really great example of how that one tiny change can bring to tremendous impact of how the system reacts. Something in China really lead us to what's happening right now.
Yeah. Okay. The next question from Elena, could you please recommend books or some resources to read about system thinking?
I can create just a list of as the follow-up if you're really interested in, and I will separate from like really theory, the boring one where I was showing you the pictures of dynamic systems, to more interesting hands-on. I have few which I think really interesting.
Great, and we will share them in follow-up letter. Good. The next question from Nati. It seemed like an extensive and time-consuming type of analysis. I assume it wasn't easy to pursue sponsors to invest into this. So how did you prove it's a right approach and they will benefit afterwards?
I really liked how Adrian answered on similar question at the beginning. He said about the stealth mode. At the really beginning, it's really hard to prove what you're trying to do, because for them, those are a lot of practical people. This is some kind of really cosmic theories, especially when you telling, hey, we'll build the book of your business and everything. Why we need to do that? I started from understanding that I need this, and I started from the small department. And after I showed how it works and how they can benefit for the one single department, we started to extend it more and more. Right now, we're not doing yet the entire enterprise. We're doing only operational part, and we're growing iteratively, and while they see the value. And the value I was trying to represent to the people who actually are sponsors. They're operating with money, right? And I was trying to show the potential money savings, or at least time savings, so they can take time and transfer to money. And that really actually helped.
Yeah, when it comes to money, it helps. So the next question also from Nadia, did you create any branding to support the change strategy and change communication plan? Who is responsible for that?
I'm more than advisor for all this initiative. It's on the side of the client, and that's more logical. They introduced recently the position of business architect. The previous person who was working with as a lead analyst on the side of the client, who is the manager of those people, took this role, and she's actually the responsible one. And we, as the vendor, we are advisors, because that's more logical. Giving that to outsourcing company, it's not logical for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. And we have next question from Yulia. How much time did it take you to analyze, create a solution, and approve it?
I'm still doing that. Let's say a really initial part took me a few months because I entered the company with their own language. It was like Babylon. Each department was talking their own language. I understood nothing except prepositions. So it took me a few months to just realize what's happening. I was spending a lot of time on investigation of how it should be, because everyone lies. You cannot trust even subject matter experts. And as soon as we started talk the same language, and we started to show them the practical results and benefits from what we are doing, that all become as the working machine. We are still analyzing, still creating, still proving, but in top down. Top part of the vision took maybe half of the year, but during this half of the year we were already working on some proof of concepts, on some vision of architectural vision. So it's like a huge enterprise. It was not like we start in 2 weeks. It was done in parallel, and the beginning the stealth mode.
Yeah. Okay, and we have the next question from Mikhailo about system thinking. What is the key element to start from when analyzing enterprise? Strategy, internal policies, other?
How they are generating value, how they think they are generating value. Because the main thing about the system is to take input and transform it into the output. And each company does it differently. And it's crucial to start the understanding of how they are how they are thinking they do this transformation and why they're doing it this way. In this particular example of our customer, it was important to understand this cultural specific. Being with people and being the live people to talk is important, important competitive advantage for them. And that's the thing you need to remember. That's why you cannot propose them automating perfectly everything, like customer support or something. You cannot propose them to go through AI. You need always remember that live people on the phone is their value. If we remove that, you can destroy the system. So I would suggest to start with understanding how they take their resources and transform it into the value from really top. And after that, go to bottom. Use the pyramid principle. The same item like in three words, 3 sentences, and after that, you can do it in 3 books.
Yeah, great. Okay, and we have one more question from Igor Bobryshev. How did you convince the client to listen to your advice regarding the business processes? What if the client is only ready to pay for the engineering services?
Act as an advisor. They are the controlling element. You are not a part of the system. You are some element which penetrates that and tries to make this change, like input or the feedback. You're trying to, through the feedback, push them to do something. If they do not want, that's their call, the call of their controlling system. And these decisions will lead to one of the paths of how system will go. The thing what you can do is to advise and suggest and tell what will happen if they will not follow your advice. Some simple risk management. As soon as that will happen, they will start listening more. That's actually what I was doing multiple times, and that's the best strategy. Convincing, always, like I said in my lessons learned, advise, but prove your advices either through value, and the best thing through saving the time, gaining some competitive advantage, or increasing revenue, decreasing costs. Everyone reacts perfectly on that.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. And the last questions for today will be from Anya. What entities are included into the main model? How big and detailed it should be?
As big as and detailed as you and team you're working with will need, actually. That's the thing you need to define as the, at the beginning, the level of details and the timing you are ready to spend on that. Entities, everything you're operating with. In my example, that's the insurance company. It is like insurance plan, member, group, benefit, whatever. Just put on the on the paper all the words you hear and try to build some kind of verbs between them. Like member signs the contract. So like in this relationships, how many members can sign the contract? Contracts is signed by the company and member. And just understanding those relationships gives you the perfect picture of what you're working with. And my personal advice, it really helps me to answer any question from my team at any moment. I don't know, maybe 5-15 minutes, because I understand how these entities are related with each other. I do not need to like read through a lot of materials because I remember this model. Level utilization based on how much you need and how much is enough for you to understand.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Elena. I would like to remind everyone that, yeah, we will send a follow-up letter. A lot of people sent a lot of thank you, Elena, and they are waiting for some recommended books and resources for self-study. So we will share everything in a follow-up letter together with the presentation and the recording. Also, I would like to thank everyone for joining. Don't miss our evening session with Jana Pona and her topic, Navigating Digital Strategy. So see you there, and thanks a lot once again.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.